I think the whole thing is a fabrication. And it may not have been the smartest move politically to threaten everybody with recall.
It may, okay, I renamed you Curry Girl. You're not Sherry.
Okay.
To them, you're Curry Girl.
I don't care. Put my name up there.
I'm going to mute you guys. If everyone can please make sure that they're on mute until called on to speak, that would be great.
Barely. Rob? Okay, I'm about ready to unmute.
Counselor, you are unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, we need you to keep your microphones muted.
Who the host is, Chad.
No, it's that other Christie. Probably Chad. Probably let me in.
Callers, we can hear you. You might want to mute your phones.
Okay, how do I do that?
Hit mute
I don't have mute on here.
at the bottom of your phone.
Mute.
Eight participants. Okay,
15 seconds.
there is. Yes.
Brent,
We got
Peter.
Brent and Peter. Can you gentlemen hear us okay?
We can hear you.
Nice, wonders never cease.
I'll get the handle on it.
It's fresh.
Yeah. As president of the Gerhardt City Council, I'd like to call the July 6, 2022 special council meeting to order. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest?
No.
No. Are we going to get another conflict when the regular meeting starts? Yes. Or is this it? No. You'll get another one at the regular meeting. Okay. Right, and I have none. And under new business, we need to nominate a mayor candidate and vote.
So the nomination come from a councilor.
I nominate Carrie Smith to be our mayor.
And I second that. Okay. I have been nominated and seconded by Austin and Brent. Thank you. Is there any discussion? No discussion heard. I'd like a vote of yeas. I vote yay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. I know that's a little egotistical. All right, so it passes. As mayor, I need to find a replacement for position 1, and at this time I would like to nominate Dana Gold and have a second.
I'll second that.
Sure.
Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to have Dana, if she's willing to introduce herself. I've never met Dana or know Dana, so.
Sure.
Maybe tell a little about yourself.
I was going to do that in the regular council meeting, but Dana can go ahead and do that now.
Okay.
Just Dana, if you want to stand up near those chairs there, good.
Sure. Okay. Well, my name is Dana Gould. I've lived here in town since we're owning the house here in town and lived here most of the time since 2018. Prior to that, I worked in law enforcement for 30 years down in Southern California. And prior to that, I moved around quite a bit. My family is originally from the Bellingham, Washington area. We ended up here because my husband's family's been in the area. They have ties in Astoria, Warrenton, and Seaside. I think we're the first Gerhardt folks since the early 1900s. And I I'm interested in helping, if I can help, if I can provide any kind of help to the council, because I do have a strong background in project management for government entities and building mostly law enforcement type projects. But also my last command, I was a commander of a facility that had a small inmate fire camp. So I'm a little bit, I would never think to be an expert on fire matters, but I have a little bit of an idea of the struggles that they face.
Is there any other discussion, questions?
No.
And I had a second from Rita, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Dana, you can take the seat by Austin if you want, or Councilor Warrens if you want to turn sideways to it.
This one.
Yeah.
I'll support you, Thomas.
Okay, and now since I've vacated position 1 and also vacated the position of president of the council, I would like to nominate Rita Fackrell to take the rest of the term until January 2023.
So second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. It's unanimous that Rita is president of the council. I would like a motion to close the special meeting July 6, 2022.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Would you like to do the oath of office in this section, or would you like to do that in the regular meeting, sir? Either way.
Oh, we'll do it right now.
Okay.
We'll do it right now.
Great. Would you like to do your oath first?
Sure. That way I can do the swearing.
May I have that document there? We're going to switch them out. Okay, sir. So just stand and raise your right hand, please. Is I, Carrie Smith,
I, Carrie Smith,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
and the charter, ordinances, and rules of procedures
and the charter and rules and ordinances and rules of procedures for the city of Europe.
Thank you. And that I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself as mayor
And I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself in the position of mayor
for the city of Gerhart, to which I have been appointed,
for the city of Gerhart, for which I have been appointed
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome to the position, sir.
Thank you.
Would you like to do Ms. Dana Wolf?
Yes. That's what threw me off when I saw the position 1.
We're going to have to break that up into much smaller bites.
Okay. If you would stand and raise your right hand, Dana. I, Dana Gold,
I, Dana Gould,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon
and the charter, ordinances, and rules of procedures
and the charter, ordinances, and rules of procedures
for the city of Gerhart,
for the city of Gerhart,
and that I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself in position 1
and that I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself in position 1
for the city of Gerhart,
for the city of Gerhart,
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Well, Councilor Gold.
Now, may I entertain a motion of adjournment for the special meeting of July 6, 2022?
I move that we adjourn the special council meeting.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Meeting's closed. I now call to order the July 6, 2022 regular council meeting. Is there a declaration of a conflict of interest by anyone?
I do not have a conflict. However, I would like to make a brief statement regarding a potential allegation of conflict. I have a LLC that I formed to do real estate investments and finance, and the investments that I have done are outside of the state of Oregon. So therefore, I do not have a conflict with Gerhardt or any place else in Oregon.
Okay, thanks, Brent.
I just wanted that on the record.
Thank you. Anyone else have a declaration?
No.
No.
Neither do I. Having said that, we're on to approval of minutes. The first one is the executive session for the city council on Tuesday, May 31st. Are there any corrections?
It looked good to me. I move that we accept the minutes for the executive session of Tuesday, May 31st.
Second.
Second.
So second, any discussion? Okay, those approved say yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. Just for a correction, Dana, you weren't there, so you can't vote on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'd like to move on to approval of the minutes for the city council. Do we have to approve minutes for a work session?
She had them listed as one, executive session and work session, because they.
Together?
Mhm.
Okay, well, I guess we do that. Okay, so approval of the work session minutes for Tuesday, May 31st, 2022.
I move that we approve the minutes of May 2022.
Second.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Wait, I said approved minutes of May, I meant June.
No, May.
No,
We're
May
on-
31st.
Oh, we're still on May, okay.
Yeah, we're on the work session.
Okay, got it.
So it still counts as a
Okay.
motion. All right, now with the regular meeting of the city council for Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. I will accept any corrections or a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes for Wednesday, June 1st.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
When I
Unmute.
unmuted, I still don't get any audio.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Okay, planning commission report. Everyone received one of those from Virginia Dayton. Is there any discussion on it? No.
No discussion.
Do you have something on it, Brent?
No, I just said no discussion.
Oh, okay, so the mayor's report. All right. It's not long. It's not something I've ever done before. Good evening, Gerhard. I never imagined myself to be in the position of mayor of our city. My original intent in running for city councilor was to help make a positive difference. This is still my main goal. We have a number of challenging tasks before us, and we all need to work together to make Gerhardt become a healthy environment for us all. To begin with, I would like to thank the many people of Gerhardt who came to me expressing their interest in serving on the council.
Muting the
It was a difficult decision to choose among these qualified candidates. Nevertheless, I thank you, and I will keep you all in mind should the future put me in a position of making a similar choice. And at this time, I was going to tell you about Dana, but Dana's done that already. So unless I can be redundant, then I'll move on. When Paulina resigned from her position as mayor, I had just arrived after driving for 2 days straight at my California destination, Central California destination. I had no more idea than any of you that Paulina was going to resign. I was also involved in a commitment that I could not simply up and leave. I arrived home at the end of the day on June 12th to a Gerhardt that was becoming more problematic with each day. Our world has become complicated and convoluted in many ways. This is true for small towns like ours, individual states, our country, and the entire globe. Much of the fear and hate mongering and misinformation can be blamed on the internet. Some ideas have simply been fostered by word of mouth communication. My wife and I do not use Facebook, Twitter, or any of these internet sites. We text our children and email old-fashioned way for business. Email for old-fashioned business-wise. This is really about me. I would like to ask you all to take a deep breath and step back. We have to learn to work together amongst ourselves to move forward. Toward that end, I contacted Clatsop County Sheriff Matt Phillips, and I have also consulted with the legal counsel Peter Watts. I have decided the letter sent to the city administrator anonymously, and the photo placed on the city website will no longer be issues. Any future postings or letters which indicate an increase of threats or potential violence will be handled by authorities. I've instructed the photo to be taken off the city website as of today. And finally, whether these circumstances occurred as a result of information or misinformation, it is disruptive to the health of Gerhardt and its ability to conduct normal business. Moving on, I believe the failure of the resiliency bond clearly showed that voters of Gerhardt are not interested in what was put forth for their approval. Not every voter had the same reason to vote no, and many voters were on the fence. I also believe the majority of voters do feel we need a new fire hall, and that is a matter we need to discuss together. I hope to have an informal survey in the near future, and then a more specific one following. Please pay attention to what is enclosed with your water bills. If you are an individual who does not receive a water bill, you have an option of picking up the survey at City Hall. Please call City Hall at 503-738-5501 beginning in August, so they can have a survey waiting for you. That's my report. And now, councilor reports. Councilor Fackrell.
Hi, I did meet with Wally Hamer at the pickleball tennis courts because he requested he would like to meet with the city councilors to show us his ideas for adding 2 more pickleball courts. And what he said made a lot of sense to me, and I'm really glad I went. He does not want to restripe the tennis courts. He's just going to leave the tennis courts, but he does have plans to put in 2 more pickleball courts because of the popularity of the sport. He also showed me some other things that needed to be done, and I just wanted to let the council know that I thought he had some really good ideas. It will cost money, of course, but that's par for the course. So thank you. That's all I have.
How is he going to put in pickleball courts without striping?
No, he's going to, well, according to him, the courts over there are going to need to be resurfaced because they're starting to pit and they're kind of degrading.
Okay.
So once it's completely resurfaced, he's going to leave the tennis court where it is, but move the current pickleball court west some feet, a yard or two, and then there will be enough room on the east side to add another pickleball court.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Austin?
Nothing much to report, just enjoyed the festivities this weekend in Gerhard. Was at the street dance, was also at the parade. Had a couple of hot dogs myself. And you know, the community and the people that were there were great, and everybody enjoyed themselves. And I really want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting, you know, Gerhard and just enjoying themselves the best they could and safe as possible. So I know there's been some comments about some defecation or some lack of toilets around the city. So maybe next year we might think more about that, especially for the street dance. I think there was a lack of toilet facilities there for that. So
it was all up against the fire department.
Oh, was it there?
Yeah. There's two parades.
Yeah. Well, I remember that for the
street dance,
for the parade, but I didn't see the street because the street dance was up.
Right, and the sign said bathrooms out.
Okay,
fire.
I missed those ones.
Yeah, but yeah, that could have been. Well, you don't want it up where everyone's dancing.
Yeah,
but yeah, that signage could have been a bit better.
Yeah.
Brent.
Yes, like to let everybody know that I will be joining the Clatsop County Housing Committee. They're going to be offering a Zoom meeting option this month. I helped with the parade staging setup and also the next day for the beach cleanup on the 5th. And I'll be mentioning some more beach issues in my concerns portion towards the end of the meeting. I checked in with Representative Bonamici's staff and our zip code request. It seems that we passed one hurdle in the process, so it's been kicked up to the next level of management for consideration. So at least it hasn't been declined yet. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to city officers report. Chief Bowman.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. In an interest of keeping with your new mayor statement, I'm going to terminate about 15 minutes of my report. Month of June, had one reported crime. 4th of July, Friday through Monday, we had one theft that took place, and that was some kids that took a wood pallet, and we actually caught up with the kids and took it back. So as far as criminal issues going, like any real major type crimes or assaults against people, we didn't have any of that. We had a lot of social crimes. We had what I refer to as illegal fireworks, which have been going on for 38 years that I've been here. Complaints concerning legal fireworks that has been going on for the 38 years that I've been here. Underage drinking, again, which has been going on for 38 years since I've been here. And basically disruption of their quality of life. So those were the four main issues that I've encountered during the 4th of July weekend and 2 days since. I guess some people think every year's the worst year that it's ever been. My opinion for this year is it was far better than last year. Just looking at the sheer quantity of people that were on the beach, I probably spent 7 hours down there, and there were far fewer people on the beach this year. And I believe that a lot of people just plain cleared out of town, even when you really couldn't tell that by yesterday's traffic southbound trying to get into Seaside that was backed up to the liquor store. So with that, if anybody has any other questions, or if somehow there would be a solution for West Lynn, Lake Oswego, Lincoln, Jesuit, Beaverton, and some of the other surrounding schools within the metropolitan area, if their parents wouldn't allow this stuff going on, then there would probably be a lot less of the teenage problem that we have. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And it still happened when we were a town of 450 people. It's just increasing more rapidly now. And with the influx of 90 roughly vacation homes, it just worse as far as social problems. But the kids didn't have any criminal activity. They were all fairly decent. I encountered the whole big group of about 200 of them 3 different times. And out of that group, one of the juveniles ended up with a citation for an open container in a car. And that's it. So I don't have anything else unless somebody has any questions.
No questions. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Now on to the fire chief. Oh, Josh, you're there.
I am here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before I start my report, I want to say congrats to Mayor and Councilor Gould. It's super exciting. Christy, can I share my screen? Please.
Give it a go.
All right, can everybody see my report up there?
No.
Yeah, oh, now it's coming up, Josh.
Perfect. So for my June data report, we ended, that says May, but it should say June. Sorry about that. We ended June 2022 on call number 321. We had a total of 53 calls for the entire month. For June of 2021, which was a record year, we ended on call 300. So we are 21 calls ahead of 2021 for this year. The call breakdown for June of 2022, of the 53 calls, 31 was inside the city limits and 19 was in our district. We sent out aid 3 times. They were all to Seaside this last month in June. 2 of them was for possible structure fires that ended up being an unauthorized burn. And 1 was for a time they needed coverage. They had low staffing and had multiple calls going on. So we assisted them for manpower for backup with that. We received aid 3 times. Out of those 53 calls, that's included in there. Once was for a grass fire at the far north end where Blue Heron Lane ends in the dunes. All wildland fires in the dune grass, ODF comes and assists with that. We have that auto aid agreement with them in state parks. We received aid for trauma system entry call in Colby Lake. They had an accident from the boat races. Warrenton Fire assisted us, as well as Life Flight landed right there at the park and took the patient to Portland, which is now expected to make a full recovery and is doing very well. And then we had a possible structure fire. So Seaside came for automatic aid for that one. It was the 3 times that we had aid for. Continuing on for the 4th of July, even though we had it just this month, thought I would share as I did last year. We had 34 calls over the entire weekend, Friday to the end of July 4th, and 25 of those calls alone was just on the 4th. We set up a mini EOC just like we did last year, so everything could be mitigated and handled more appropriately. We kept multiple groups safe and pre-mitigated numerous issues before they became bigger ones. We stopped groups of people in the dunes that were trying to hide and light off fireworks. So we were able to stop that before it grew into a much larger incident that we all know could have started a big wildland fire in the dunes and created a bigger issue. Because we had our crews out and they were out on tactical patrol and taking care of the community, our response time to all the calls were within a minute or less to almost every call that we had on the 4th of July because of the staffing we had. We had about 12 people on staff here, firefighters for the whole day, taking care of everything that was going on. The parade that we had went really well. We handed out about 1,000 hot dogs this year, which was 200 less than last year. We expected a little less just because the 4th was on a Monday this year. We added a couple new things for activities at the station after the parade was over. We had a firefighter course that kids were able to crawl through and have some fun. Then we had a dunk tank, which I think I was dunked about 100 times in there. But people enjoyed it a lot. Groups were there hanging out for over 2 hours after the parade was over, which we haven't had before. So it was really good and really successful. Dispatch is still waiting for the equipment to be installed to improve our radio communications. They got some new terminals that they are refurbished ones that are coming and getting installed. And then they're putting a new link up and a new repeater on Tillamook Head. So that should help us out for our communications there. We still have not heard anything on the AFG grant to replace our apparatus, and the same with the SAFER grant for a recruit and retention person. But we were successful in getting a grant from the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office for summer staffing. We got a grant for $35,000 that allowed us to put on 2 full-time seasonal people. So we had 2 extra positions on for summer until the end of October to help us through our really busy time, which makes our summer staffing up to 5 people, counting myself and division chief of training, and then our intern who always turns over into a seasonal position in the summer. So that's going to help us out a lot during the weekday hours and even the weekends during 7:30 to 5:30 will help us out with that. July 11th, Oregon Department of Forestry and Clatsop Fire Defense Board is going into burning season. So 1 a.m. on July 11th on Monday, there's no more open debris burning. You can get burn permits at that website link right there. GerhardtFire.com/burning-regulations, or you can just go to GerhardtFire.com and click on burning, fill out burn permits. You have to have a burn permit from the city of Gerhardt if you're inside of the city limits. If you're in our district, our fire district, then you'll get a permit from the Oregon Department of Forestry, which all that information is on our website, and we'll be posting it and blogging it with the burn regulations for this year and everything as well. They made the fire size a little bit smaller. In the years past, the campfires for homes used to be a size of 4 by 4 by 4. Now they are 3 feet wide and 2 feet tall, and asked to be 50 feet from dune grass and homes and structures. They will allow them to be 30 feet close to homes if they're in an approved fire pit. We have pictures on our regulations that help with that. So if they're just like some people like dig a little hole in the ground, whatever, those can't be any closer than 50 feet to a structure. But if you get an approved fire pit container, you can have those 30 feet to a structure from there. Last month, the council asked for a list of station safety concerns. That list was given to them, and with some assistance with the new mayor, we are working on mitigating some of those issues and moving forward with those. And if there's no questions, that is all I have for the council.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief.
Of course, thank you guys.
Continuing on with officer reports, City Treasurer Justine.
The financial report that was in the council's packet does represent through June 30th. However, I do want to note that it is important that deposits, expenditures, and adjustments will still be made after that date. We try to pay everything. We have some accounts payable. So although it's the June report, it's not the complete month report. So I don't want to get too excited if you do any ending fund balance of itself or anything like that, because we still will have some adjustments to there. The budget appropriation changes that were approved in resolution 969 were implemented in the June revenues and expenses reports, and it looks like all of our categories appear to be in budget compliance this year. In June, the building and plumbing revenues saw a little bit of a surge. I don't know, maybe the nicer weather, people getting out there and doing some things. And the city received their final payment for the Parks Master Plan grant this year, because we did get a grant for that, so we got our final payment. Overall, the general fund revenues look like they've increased by 11.8% in comparison to the previous year, so that's good. Increased revenues through budgeted transfers were made to the Water Reserve Fund, the Police Car Reserve Fund, Fire Apparatus Reserve Fund, the Hazardous Mitigation Fund, and the Building Reserve Fund. It is important to note that since the report was created and put in the packet, an adjustment was made to the Public Works Equipment Reserve Fund. So that fund is different today than it is on that report. This transfer comes from the Water Operating Fund, and transfers are only made if the ending fund balance is in a stable, strong position. And after Chad and I talked about that fund, after he got back, we had decided that it is in the financial best interest of that fund to eliminate the $15,000 transfer to the Public Works Equipment Reserve Fund. So it no longer exists in there.
For this year.
Just for this year, yeah. Also note, because of this, the full budgeted amount was not transferred to the Water Reserve. So we had a budgeted amount to the Water Reserve, but if you look at the difference, we did not transfer the full amount of that either. We only transferred a partial amount in that reserve fund. Significant in expenditures is a payment for the fuel tank project in the Hazardous Mitigation Fund. There has also been end of the year distribution adjustments in workers' compensation and PERS accounts. So QuickBooks has some limited account distribution abilities. So we have to manually adjust positions that have one person but do multiple jobs. So workers' comp and PERS, we distribute out to the different funds so that it's a better representation of what they're doing in that particular fund. So we did a few adjustments there. We're adding, Josh had mentioned new wildfire staffing grants. And we have added 2 lines. We've added a fire staffing grant restricted revenue line item, and we will add an expenditure temporary grant labor in the fire department so that we can track those and see those revenues and expenditures independently in the general fund. Overall, it's been a great year.
Yeah. I remember from the budget process a few months ago, the funds available for the new play center across the field was in last year's budget.
Right.
But because of the delays, do we need to move that over into next year's budget?
I don't think we need to move it. I think there will be enough money left to do what we need to do in the parks line item. There's a line item in there for expenditures in parks. And I still think that that's enough money to cover what we need to do. We paid for all of the equipment.
Right.
So those primary costs. So I think we'll be okay there.
Yeah. Because I can't remember what the amount it was, but it was it 15,000, 20,000 for the installation portion of it?
Yeah, up to 16 in the future. I think it's kind of what we've been looking at. We're sitting down with those numbers depending on how that all shakes out.
Right.
We're we're back in the queue for some help with the installation, and the engineered bark chips were farther out than what we initially thought. So those two things are being worked on now. We'll have more to report soon. We're hoping at the end of or in August that we'll be able to continue and move forward with that.
Oh, we'll be covering that.
I think we'll be okay in the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Justine, on the page 1 of the check detail, you had a header that says for confidentiality, pages 5 through 19 have been removed. Can we ask what was on those?
So, yeah.
Ah.
So QuickBooks is very limited in their sort of their way they do reports. And so it prints the name, it prints if you have garnishments, it prints if you have some things in there that are kind of personal for individual. That's why we have the gross by department.
I understand.
So we do remove the individual's personal information out of there because it has their name and some deductions that maybe aren't necessarily public information.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And that omission is a regular feature of the report.
Hey, thank you, Justine. Peter Watt, City Attorney.
Let me unmute myself. Okay, a brief report. I think I had discussed either last meeting or the meeting before that the US Bank case involving the historic barn property had been, the judge had granted a summary judgment on Shannon Smith's behalf in that case. That decision was appealed to the Court of Appeals. So I will be in touch with Dean Alterman, who is representing her. Our interests and Shannon Smith's interest in this, I would probably say, are about 95% aligned. And that both of us agree that the bank does not have a lien on her half of the property. And I believe both of us agree that the city's lien is earlier in time than any lien that a judge would be able to grant as a result of these actions. No opinion as to the kind of the remainder of the interest there. So the Court of Appeals has offered, it's not really a judicial settlement conference, but it kind of is, kind of more like a mediation to see if some of this stuff can be worked out. I have been suggesting to the plaintiff, US Bank, that that's what should happen, some sort of mediated end where the city's rights are recognized, obviously, and Shannon Smith has rights too in all this. And they have been reluctant so far to engage in that. But now that the Court of Appeals is suggesting, not ordering, but suggesting that, I think they're going to be more amenable to that. And hopefully we can arrive at something that really works for everyone. That would be our goal. I have gotten some questions about the election. Not about the outcome of the election. I think the outcome of the election is pretty readily apparent to everyone, but rather getting some clarifications regarding some other items. So we're looking at that, and hopefully I'll be able to report in more detail at the next meeting. I think by then we'll know some things that kind of are unknowns at this time. I think that might be all that I've got for you guys, unless you have any questions.
Peter, I had a question about the US Bank Smith issue, and having worked for a number of banks, I do know that errors are rare, but they do happen. and it looks like US Bank screwed up. And why haven't they just filed a claim against their errors and omissions insurance policy and called it a day?
Well, because the original lender on this was Wells Fargo. And then Wells Fargo attempted to, I believe Wells Fargo attempted to foreclose. And these problems became apparent in that they had only recorded their lien on one half of the property, or one half of the property interest. So then that loan was bundled and sold, is my understanding. And so I think that, I don't know for sure, I suspect that US Bank would have had knowledge of these issues because Wells Fargo certainly did. So I don't know that filing against their errors and omission insurance would be an option for them. I assume that this was part of a package of discounted loans, but I don't know that for sure. I have asked that point blank to the lawyer for US Bank, and he has not been forthcoming. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. City Administrator, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this brief and just kind of skip over a few things, but we have received the fuel tanks from the grant that we had written, and those are being installed. That's for backup fuel in case of emergencies. Code enforcement issue, nothing new to report, but actually we are concentrating on signs at the moment. We've had a couple of complaints about signs, so we're working throughout the town, contacting people first, writing letters second, and then trying to get some of those things taken care of. So you may hear a few things about that, but that's what we're working on. In Public Works, we've worked on a water conservation plan and seismic resiliency and mitigation plan. Those drafts are complete. They are coming also to the City Council for adoption, but I'm considering this for a work session, and I'll work with Mayor Smith and the council on a future work session agenda, but I'd like to go over that with you in a work session rather than the City Council meeting. Okay. So we'll talk about that. Vacation rentals, nothing really new to report, although we lost one more due to sale. So that permit evaporated. And we have one less short-term vacation rental in town. I want to again congratulate Josh for the 2022 and his team wildfire season grant and the staffing grant. Gerhard was very successful in grant writing this year, and we'll report more on that again. But I'm very impressed with the team and what they've done. And then the last thing really is the Mechanic and Watershed Council and Noah. And Noah is the gentleman that has been helping us out with that. He had written a grant with us, and we've been working on removal of noxious weeds on the bridge path. We just found out that Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, Oregon Conservation and Recreation Fund grant just awarded NOAA through us another $16,000 grant towards Gerhardt's Ridge Path work.
Oh, good.
So we'll continue that. Keep an eye on the blog for those dates. They do move around a little bit. And if you sign up for the blog, then we can get, you'll receive information in your email, and you can join and participate. It's kind of fun to meet new people, and the work is not that bad. At this point, that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Under correspondence, these are just emails for people who want to speak, right? They're not.
Yeah, that's just for your visitors, sir.
Yeah, and I don't have anything in my packet for correspondence.
I think the news carried.
Yeah, stuff. And behind the sheet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This, they're all attached.
I take that all back. Okay. So, are there any questions, concerns about the correspondence?
Well, one of the correspondents wants to know if we're trying to run the elk herd out of Gerhard. And who's behind this empire? And did that receive a response?
I'm not sure, Counselor. I wasn't aware of that until just now, but I'm sure Christy helped with that, and we will get them a response as to the fact that currently we're not pushing the elk out of town, kind of letting them be. But there are some other issues going on with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and that they're working on. And we'll report on those again soon.
Thank you.
We will be taking the elk declaration of cooperation with some of the items that were on there, and that's going to be on the agenda for the next planning commission meeting, for them to start working on some of the ideas in regards to zone code changes, maybe some ordinance changes. So they're going to choose a few of the low-hanging fruit to get started on, and then they'll make some presentations to you, the council.
Thank you.
Remind me, is that an Oregon Solutions project?
That is an Oregon Solutions project.
And that was designated by the governor as a state.
That was, yes, designated by Governor Brown, with help from Betsy Johnson.
Okay. That's it for correspondence. So we're now into the visitors section. The first person I have is Pat Roberts. Pat Roberts, are you on? Give her a moment to unmute.
There, did I unmute?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. I think my question was answered in comments made by the mayor that some corrective things are happening with the blog, removing postings and moving forward. And I think that's a very positive step. I guess my concern was I couldn't understand. I mean, it's terrible to have the feeling that you might be shot at or someone might be bringing a gun, but how you reached that conclusion was not real clear to me anyway. And those were my concerns.
All right, well, thank you very much, Pat.
Pat, could you please state your address for the record?
It's there. It's 366 North Ocean, Gerhardt, 97138.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Beth Cameron. Will you state your name and address for us, please?
Beth Cameron, 2906 Pine Court. Well, I was happy to hear Mayor Smith's view on the blog and so on. I would still like to address it. As I was one of those defamed in this, I made the it's alleged that I made a false report to Sheriff Phillips, and that's not the case. Mid-morning on June 8th, I reported a rumor to him that was circulating around on Facebook. It was a serious rumor about two people bringing guns to the city council meeting. I provided him with all of the posts in every site that I am a member of that I saw. So he had a full understanding of what was being said. Going on from there, in the first paragraph of the email on the blog from Chad Sweet, submitted as part of the evidence against me, it says, yesterday, Mayor Smith expressed concern about City Hall security regarding people stating they may be carrying a gun to the public meetings. Similarly, in Chief Bowman's letter regarding city meetings and gatherings dated June 8th, it states in part, City Hall did just receive an anonymous letter on 6/6/22. So according to both the city manager and the chief of police, there was in fact a letter that contained threats. That being pointed out, what was the falsehood I reported? In fact, Mr. Sweet's email implied a threat was made and it was credible enough to trigger an email conversation about increased security at City Hall. This threat came on the heels of several mass shootings in the country, Uvalde having been the most recent to my report. With threats of potential gun violence becoming a part of Gerhardt's public meetings, it was my duty as a responsible human being to report it. Let me be clear to everybody. My sole reason for reporting the threat to Sheriff Phillips was the safety of every single person attending the council meetings. Simple as that. But I have to ask, why didn't any of you report the threat? If someone had intended gun violence at the meeting and people were hurt or killed, would you have been able to live with yourselves knowing you were complicit in their injuries or death because you failed to report the threat? I couldn't. So I did what any responsible person should do. I made a report. Now I'm being vilified, called names, and accused of being a criminal by making a false police report. However, I know I am a good, honest, kind person who doesn't wish ill on anyone. I will not be intimidated into keeping my mouth shut when the safety of others is at stake, nor will I allow Chief Bowman or the city to lie and publicly, falsely smear me by calling me a criminal on the city's website or anywhere else. Bottom line is, hear something, see something, say something. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Beth, very much for your comment. Next on the list is Bibi Michelle. Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Bibi Michelle. I live at 661 10th Street. I'd like to thank Mayor Smith, former Mayor Cochran, Councilor Fackrell, Councilor Warren, Councilor Tomlinson, and City Administrator Chad Sweet for their hard work on behalf of the citizens of Gerhardt. I truly appreciate their time and dedication to make Gerhardt the best it can be. I was appalled at the verbal browbeating directed at Mayor Cochran and at the council by Jack Zimmerman, Beth Cameron, and Bob Morey at the last city council meeting. Instead of extending an invitation to come together as we move forward, these people took the opportunity to berate and belittle our elected representatives and then threaten them with a recall. No grace and victory there. These people do not represent me or many others in our community. In light of alarming social media posts, I also want to thank the city for being proactive regarding the potential for violence at public meetings. I strongly support prohibiting firearms and weapons at public meetings. Threats and intimidation have no place in our civic discourse. I also would like to ask that the city continue their work to secure the Highland land parcel on behalf of the city. The fire station bond may have failed this time, but the urgent need to update our fire station remains. We need high ground options to secure a safer future. Again, I would like to thank you for your public service in these difficult times.
Thank you, Bibi. And next on the list is Robert Morey. Bob, are you out there?
We're trying to unmute.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but there's no visual.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
Like Carrie, I'm not on social media. So like Carrie, oftentimes I get myself information from others. And one of my concerns here, and I'm like the others, I am pleased that Carrie made the statement at the beginning to remove everything that he discussed from the city's blog. That does not change one of my concerns tonight, and that is, from everything I've read, there is no evidence that there was ever any threat of gun violence that has been presented. Gun violence at any public meeting. There's been heavy and consistent hammering at, sadly, Kathy Zimmerman's for a family website, that somebody breached a family website. I called them, Kathy, after this thing was put out by the city, and tried to get an explanation of what happened. Are you all familiar with the nature of the post that you put out? Do you understand what that post was? that you put out that, Carrie, you discussed it at the homeowner or the association meeting on the 2nd.
Yes.
And you also were quoted in RJ's article. Do you understand how that particular piece of information you posted was generated?
How it was generated and why it was generated, I do now, but that's all I'm gonna say, Bob. I'm not into back and forth. So
Carrie,
I'll
I'm
just
not,
tell you
okay.
that.
Carrie, I don't want you to be back and forth, but I think you owe the Zimmermans an apology. I've had my neighbors come back and say, what are these guys doing? When what you end up finding out is there's a post done by their veteran Marine son on their family page in 2016. It has nothing to do with the city of Gerhardt. You deserve to give them some recompense for what the city has done by posting that and implying that they were for gun violence. And it had nothing to do with the Zimmermans themselves or the city of Gerhardt. So please fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next, I have Harold Gable.
Right.
Got one little blurb from you, Harold, and nothing else.
We may go back.
Harold Gable,
Oh, there we go.
714 8th Street, Gerhardt, Oregon. I think it's best for me to follow my legal advice and to speak at a later date about that. But what I would like to add is if we're going to continue these Zoom programs, they're extremely, sounds like both you, Gary, and especially Chad, you sound like you're talking in a barrel. It's so hard to understand. W and the other people that have called in have been where there isn't this backflow echo in the phones. So if you can reconfigure and get your messages directly, it would be a lot of help to the people who are not present with Zoom as long as it's going to continue. That's the end of my statement.
Thank you very much, Harold. That's something that is, I thought fixed, but apparently is still needing a little more work. Next
you need
on
a
the
single
list.
microphone. A single microphone for you and for Chad. Very close ones. Everybody else has clarity. BB did, Beth did, Bob Morey just did. We need to change that if they're going to do it this way, because half of what you're saying is lost.
Thank you, Harold. Now, Jane, would you like to speak?
Yes. Jane Gable, 714 H Street, Gerhardt, Oregon, 97138. Under advice from my legal counsel, I have chosen not to speak this evening. I am, however, keeping the questions I have for Bowman, Terry, Brent, Rita, Austin, and Chad. You may be asked to answer them under oath in the near future. I'm done. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Jane. I really appreciate that. And now on the next one, Catherine Redekop.
Hello. Let me pull up my document. Thank
Your
you for
name and address, please.
Got it. Catherine Redekop, 306 North Marion. I am a part-time Gerhardt resident, but my parents are full-time. I just want to say, some of you might recognize me as I was at the last homeowners meeting asking for volunteers to help clean up the beach on July 5th. I want to thank those of you who did. But I also wanted to let the community know what we found on the morning of the cleanup. My family and I have been cleaning up the beach the day after the 4th of July for the past 15 plus years. I can't keep track of how long, but that's an approximation. There is normally a lot to clean up, but I have never seen anything like what we found on Tuesday. The beach was an absolute mess north of the 10th Street car access. It looked like a garbage dump and was littered with cans, bottles, vape pens, leftover fireworks, and clothes, among other things. We were also greeted by a group of boys around their car, many of whom were still passed out from the excesses from the night before. It took a group of approximately 15 people many hours to clean up the area. My son and I also spoke with some of our neighbors that live in the surrounding area. One neighbor said that a group of teenagers was camped out of a parked U-Haul for multiple nights. Other neighbors found used condoms littering their property. My parents are, as I mentioned, my parents are full-time residents of Gerhardt, and I spend about 3 months a year here. I love it here so much, and I have been outraged every 5th of July at the state of our beach. I am also saddened by the small number of volunteers that come down to the beach each year to clean up after the 4th. I don't have a solution to this problem. However, I came here to ask the community to work together in order to create a solution that works for all of us. As you might know, the beaches are a part of the State Parks of Oregon system, which limits our power. But if we band together as a community to put pressure on the park department, perhaps things can change. If you would like to continue this discussion as a group, both Carrie and Chad have my contact information, or you can drop by 306 North Marion and say hello. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, is there anyone in the audience, the Zoom audience, that want to put up their raised hand so they can speak?
There are none up.
There are none up. Then we will move on to ordinance and resolutions. There are none. Old business is a discussion of political sign ordinance.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I've done a deeper dive into some of what we can do. And I have to admit, because I had not been to Gerhardt in the lead up to the election, I had not understood. I mean, I knew that there were signs on fences. I knew that there were signs in yards. I knew that there were some larger signs. I did not know that there were signs that had been nailed to trees. I did not know there were signs in the city's right of way. That I did not understand. And so during my conversations with Chad, what I had said was, as far as political signs go, if they're not creating a safety or public hazard, such as a sight line for cars where a driver might not be able to see another car, then, and as long as they're temporary in nature, then there's less legal risk of not regulating them than regulating them. What I can tell you is we can absolutely prohibit all political signs. And again, this is all viewpoint neutral. It is not about that one group of signs get to go somewhere and another group of signs don't get to go somewhere. It is that signs can be prohibited in the public right of way. Of course, signs could be prohibited from being nailed on city trees, on city property, in city parks. All of those would be very safe prohibitions. If the city council wants to take on a size of the sign, I would say that I would be uncomfortable with an ordinance that limited beyond what you would normally see in a yard sign. If we were to try and make it smaller than that, I think that would be pretty susceptible to a legal challenge. If we want to have some sort of limit above that, you know, we can talk about the reasonableness of that. Again, the idea that Justice Stevens said in his opinion was that limited duration political signs in either residences or businesses really are the most effective way of expressing your opinion to a wide audience for not very much money. So there are going to be some political signs. That's what the Supreme Court says. But as far as some of the time, place, and manner restrictions, we can certainly say no political signs on city property, in the city right of way, or nailed to city trees. Those are all very low hanging fruit. If we want to talk about the size of signs, I think there's probably a floor that we can't go below. I don't know what a reasonable ceiling would be. The pictures of signs that I saw didn't seem, they were certainly larger than regular business signs that would be allowed in Gerhardt, but they didn't seem outrageously large to me. But I only saw some pictures of signs because only some people sent me pictures of signs. So it's possible there were some giant signs that I didn't see images of. So as far as some reasonable limitations, we can do that. I can develop that. I can develop those if I get a better idea of how much you want to regulate. And again, I would just say the higher the level of regulation, the higher the legal risk, because it does impair people's, it could impair people's ability to express themselves. Somebody sent me an image of a sign on a motor vehicle. That really didn't give me much concern at all. So really what I am concerned about is public safety, and then just making sure that it's limited on city property, city right of way, and city trees. And then because other signs have come up, I'll just say that one of the challenges with a sign ordinance is the same as the challenge that was posed by our fence ordinance, and that there were fences that pre-existed our fence ordinance, and then there were fences that had been apparently constructed with the permission of the prior city manager, but we didn't have any written record of that. But it was kind of generally accepted that he would tell people, oh yeah, you can do that, and not necessarily have anything in writing. So the way that we solved that problem was we revoked our fence ordinance, and then we passed our fence ordinance. And what that did was make every fence that had been built a pre-existing non-conforming use. We could do something like that with the sign ordinance. As far as enforcement of the sign ordinance, if it's a new sign and everybody knows it's a new sign and it's not replacing an old sign, that's pretty clear cut. But some of these signs may have pre-existed our sign ordinance. And so the problem is one of proof. I will say that, currently Oregon has a sign, but sign ordinance prohibiting signs on the state highways, freeways, but you will see some billboard signs, and that's because those billboards pre-existed those state sign statutes. The people that own those signs are legally allowed to replace them or repaint them. So if like a heavy storm came, knocked down a sign, they can't make it any bigger than the prior sign. It has to be approximately identical, but those can be rebuilt unless they're abandoned for a year and a day, at which point they lose that pre-existing non-conforming use. Another example of that in Gerhardt was the what was once a nunnery and then later a Young Life camp. It stopped being a camp for a period of multiple years, and so it lost that pre-existing non-conforming use in that R1 zone. And so it reverted back to residential. So that's another example of how something may have been allowed at the time it was built, or we don't have records proving that it wasn't. And through use, that use can continue until it's abandoned. So if you could give me a little bit of direction on the political signs and what steps you'd like to see in an ordinance, I'd be happy to work with staff in order to come up with something. And then as far as some complaints regarding signs, I've done some personally, although I don't do any code enforcement and I don't have any police powers. So I'm really powerless to do anything other than offer a legal opinion. But it's a question, some of these signs is a question of proof. They appear to be old, they appear to have been there for a long time. And so without documentation, enforcement can be an issue.
Okay, but we're going to discuss strictly the political signs at this time and get something on the books to stop it.
Right. I just wanted to make everybody aware of how political signs are different from regular signs, and then how regulating even regular signs can be an issue, so that you would have that background.
Thank you, Peter. So any thoughts? I personally don't want signs on trees, city trees, you know, nailed. They're the two out on 101 that are coming down tomorrow. Now that I'm mayor, I'm going to use some of that mayorness to tear them down.
I agree too. In any public right of way or city property doesn't make any sense to me either. So
right. So
if we have a legitimate interest in protecting the public and we don't want them out there where they're going to block your view when you're trying to make a turn or anything like that, or damaging any of our plants or wildlife, no.
Brent, do you have anything to say?
No, I think that about covers it. I think we should try to keep the regulation to a minimum, but keep public safety and our tree safety paramount.
Does that give you a kind of a direction, Peter?
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. And I think we can definitely develop some reasonable regulations around that.
Did you have something else?
Yeah, I did have one more question. Do we have a time limit currently? And is that something that we should look at if we don't?
Generally within a few weeks of the election, the signs should probably all come down. I mean, part of the reason they're protected speech is they're protected speech in the lead up to the election to inform people of views. Once the vote has been had, they don't really serve that free speech any longer.
Yeah, and Councillor Cole, we currently do not have any restrictions at all. No mention of political signs in our sign ordinance, but that could be an option. And I've seen that in other cities, and we may provide that to you as an option as well. Some of the low-hanging fruit, anyway.
Right, give them a wide berth, but you know, something that's reasonable but still prevents somebody from having to look at, you know, a sign for the next 2 years in your neighbor's yard that you know.
Sounds good. So you got that, Peter?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Great. All right, that's all old business. New business. The RFP, the water right compliance and reporting services. Chad, would you like to go over that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to use a bigger voice here so people can hear me. This is a request for proposal we received for water right compliance and reporting services. This water right and compliance and reporting is required by the state as part of our licensing for water treatment. So in May, the city published an invitation to bid or RFP to assist with assessing groundwater monitoring, surface water monitoring, and production well data in accordance with the Oregon Water Resources Department. The RFP closed on June 16th. We received only one bid, and it is attached to this report. You see your options below to either approve this, deny this, or do nothing is always an option. And the city would recommend that we work with the one RFP that we received. We've had an excellent experience with them so far. And they've always provided the information and reporting that we need on time. And they've been doing this since the beginning of the water treatment facility going online. And even before, they helped develop some of the information to get the water treatment facility built. So the legal notice and the RFP are available on the website, and we attach this information for you as well. Is there any questions about this?
Jan, how often does this request for proposals for this service go out? Is it annual?
No, this is our first time for doing it.
Okay.
We're trying to get up on doing things a little bit differently here. So we are providing this at the request of the council.
So, I mean, will we have to go through this next year?
So one of the things we put, I guess that's a council's decision. One of the things we put in the RFP is that it was renewable. The state would recommend not renewing necessarily over 5 years without then going back out and just seeing if there's competitive. That's not a requirement, but they would just like you to think about your timeline for re-advertising maybe a new company or something. So that would be a council's decision. How often that they think that going out and trying to solicit other viewers. This particular contract is renewable. So at this point, it would be renewable up until we felt that it needed to be re-looked at.
What was last year's bill for it?
It was similar.
Similar?
Yes, and I don't think the cost has necessarily gone up beyond. It's always been near 50,000.
So this is 69. So.
Yeah, excuse me. From when I started, it's been between 50 and I don't know what the high end is or what last year's exactly was. I don't know. But we can look that up for you.
Was this just posted on the state website?
We posted in the newspaper as for legal advertising.
Was there any forum or board on for the Oregon Water Resources Board that was, you can place any RFPs on there or any public domain databases?
Not on that, no, we weren't aware of that, but we can look into it.
What's the name of that stuff?
Oh, just the Oregon Water Resources Board, the person who, or the agency that oversees the reporting. I figured they might have some type of list of contractors or services they might want to reach out to. I don't know. And also the other question is if this is comparable to any other cities that have reached out to what their services have cost in the past.
I don't know that, no. But I think that with our system, the size that it is, you know, without having all the complexity of sewer and some others, I would imagine that this is a little bit less than others, but I don't have that answer. I don't know.
So they work remotely from Seattle and we just send them our data. Is that how that works?
Correct. We compile tons of data and they fish through it and make it into a report.
Okay, thank you.
Our public works guys are trained on collecting that data.
Yes, most of it. Some of the data that we receive, we send out to state and some other testing labs. But for the most part, we're reading devices automatically also within our SCADA system with the water treatment facility. It collects that information, keeps it in the database, and we send that information to Senator or a company like that. But there is some data that is manually recorded on a less frequent basis.
Right. And our staff is doing that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, the sunset for this as it stands is the calendar year at the end of this year.
It would be
2022.
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
So
okay.
July 1. I mean, you know, effectively as of when you guys approve and we sign a contract and then 1 year. So fiscal year, it could be renewed, reviewed.
Emotion?
Well, if they have been doing it for 10 years with good service and have not jacked up the price, I wouldn't have any problem renewing it for another year and then doing a broader marketing effort next year for additional RFPs. Because getting competitive bids would be a good thing for the city.
And Justine and I talked about that this morning as well. There's just some other things that we're working on. League of Oregon Cities used to be really good at posting some of these things, and they're not available for that much anymore. I'm pretty sure. So we'll look into some other areas so we can do this as well. But for now, staff is satisfied with this quote.
Well, I move that we approve the water compliance reporting services RFP for a 1-year contract with the ability to renew and seek out more bids next year.
I'll second that.
Moved and second. Is there any discussion? We basically did that already, but good to call it. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So 5. Okay, so it passes. On to the next. Building official intergovernment agreement and with Cannon Beach. Chad?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. An IGA for building official services is actually quite common, and most cities in the county have them as a backup for if their building official goes on vacation or I guess is abducted by aliens. The importance of the inspection coverage has come up a few times here in Gerhard, and we currently have a temporary building official which will be unavailable for vacation later this month. Staff is taking a proactive approach with putting measures in place to keep business running smoothly in his absence and during any future instances. After talking with the city of Cannon Beach, they proposed entering into a mutual agreement where their building official could cover Gerhardt's inspections when our official is unavailable. And in turn, we would do the same. Attached is the proposed IGA, specifying the terms and definitions of services. Staff recommends that the council approve the proposed IGA with Cannon Beach to provide the city of Gerhard with inspection services as needed.
Okay.
I move that we approve the proposed intergovernmental arrangement with Cannon Beach.
A second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the IGA?
Aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimous. Thank you. Okay, on the agenda, on my docket, but not on the agenda because it was brand new and didn't get added to the agenda by me. What a bad guy. It's new business and it's a request for storefront door installation in City Hall. And this is a movement for a little more security and a little more control. Chat.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And through the discussions that we've had recently with security of the City Hall, Mayor Smith determined and had a great idea of making sure we replace these doors. These doors need to be replaced regardless of the situation to be more appropriate for exit doors. And we'd like to upgrade to that as well. And that's what part of this process is. But just for security's sake, having doors locked on the inside and easily able to get out is what we're proposing. So we'd be replacing 3 of the doors that we have. It'd be the front and this side and the police department door. The current fire department door is situated with a locking device as it is already. So that one is good for now, we believe. We received 2 quotes and city staff would suggest that you take the lesser of 2. And we've determined that to be Kiwi glass. It was close, it was only off by about $1,500. But Kiwi glass was the lowest bidder. And we don't have any issues with either of those companies. They both do fine work as far as we're concerned. So we would suggest the lowest bid. These doors also will be upgradable to other security devices in the future. It will have the electronics ready to be installed and in the door. Some of the electronic components will be in the door already to be able to use keyless entry, keyed entry, and card entry if we need to in the future. Cameras if we need to. So they are prepared for the future, depending on where we end up.
Okay, thank you.
So, so the people will be able to get in, they'll be able to get out, just not get in?
Correct, if we choose so. So we're going to be able to lock the doors so that people will not be able to come into the facility if we choose to lock people out. Maybe not necessarily for a public meeting, but you know,
Right.
end of day. But then these doors will have more appropriate crash bars on them. So currently the doors can be locked and they're difficult to get out. So the crash bars will enable anybody who's inside to get out, no matter what the status of the door is.
Do these have metal detectors?
No, we're working on that situation as well. So no, they do not include that in the doorways. That would be a separate device.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I move that we accept the low bid from Kiwi Glass for the 3 doors.
how about if we approve the purchase of 3 storefront doors up to 13,000 in case there's a little rot in the jambs? Would that be all right with you, Brent?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. There's a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second it. I'm second things.
All right, we got a motion to approve 13 for the doors and a second. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion, then all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It passes. That is the end of our new business. We're on to council concerns. Brent, you're going to start us off with your concerns.
Sure. Well, I mentioned that I was out at the beach on the 5th. I've been out there for a number of years. My wife coordinated the Solve beach cleanup for several years. And I saw more dangerous stuff this time, not just pieces of paper. I found broken bottles, which was quite disturbing because had somebody walked barefoot, they would have had to gone to the hospital. It was that awful, jagged bottle bottom sitting in the sand, half buried. So I really think we need additional trash cans. I installed a bunch of concrete culvert pipe trash cans in the past. It's fairly cheap. Nobody's going to walk off with them because they weigh 200 pounds. They're 24 inches by 48 inches long. You can bury them a foot in the ground and insert big black plastic trash bags on them. So I'd like to see one of those at every beach entrance and have signage to remind people to throw their trash away and not leave it on the beach. And with permanent signage and permanent trash receptacles, maybe that will help. And I'm sure that there will still be drunks who will leave trash behind, but if we give people options instead of leaving it behind, we may make some headway in the issue facing the city.
Okay, thank you. Rita.
Well, I have a question. I don't know if it's a concern. I went to the ODOT Highway 101 corridor open house to see what the plans were. So, and they were going to put a roundabout on Pacific Way and 101.
No.
So what was that? See, that was my question. Were they going to? What was that about?
That was Gun Club Road.
Yeah, off of Gerhart Lane is when it was an idea thrown out, and it was just being investigated through that process. There's no direction. They talked a little bit about the configuration of Highway 101 and how that can be improved. And part of that was an option for a roundabout, which would be difficult in that situation to obtain some land that we currently don't have to make a roundabout that would work. But it was very interesting, so they left it on.
okay.
So we're just gaining and getting feedback.
Okay.
But in ODOT's presentation, I remember them saying that it's over $1 million and it is not really part of this project's budget to be spent.
Yeah.
It's just an idea that maybe in the future when they start doing something with 101.
Okay, that was my only question. I also wanted to welcome Councillor Gould to our little family. Well, it's not a family.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Dana.
You.
Dana, your concern?
I don't have any concerns to share. I'm just humbled and excited. Thank you very much for having faith in me.
Okay.
I hope I don't get fired.
Awesome.
No concerns for me. I just want to say welcome, Dana. And, yeah. Congratulations, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
So second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourn.
Good night, all.
Good
night.
Carrie, it was nice meeting you. We'll have to spend
Yes.
time with you.
Yeah.